If you hold XRP and you didn't watch my previous video where I talked about the sell-off in the market, well, this is going to be the most important video that you watch all week, because with the entire altcoin market just getting absolutely destroyed right now, other than smaller market cap projects like Aster that have just launched, very specific altcoin buyers over the next 90 days are going to make millions of dollars, but this happens first in the market. I talked about the sell-off coming in my last video for Bitcoin, for Ethereum, the entire altcoin market. And I even got comments from people saying things like technical analysis is a joke, and the basic advice like just buy low and sell high doesn't seem to actually benefit people, because how do you know when the actual low is in and the market doesn't just keep on dipping? Well, in this video, we're going to talk just about that. I'm going to give you guys some key things that we're looking at in the market, the reason why this sell-off is happening right now, and what to expect for cryptocurrencies like XRP and the rest of the entire market over the next 90 days. So buckle up, because I'm going to give my biggest predictions yet. So comment 777 if you guys are feeling blessed and bullish regardless of the short-term liquidity flush right now. And if you're going to become the first millionaire in your family tree, confirm it by tapping the subscribe button. Let's run it. Do you love crypto, but are you worried about taxes shrinking your retirement nest egg? Here's the deal. Trading and selling crypto can trigger capital gains taxes, eating into your wealth. A crypto IRA fixes that. Per IRS publication 590B, traditional IRA gains like those from crypto aren't taxed until distributed. That's why we've partnered with iTrust Capital, a leading crypto IRA company in the USA, to sponsor today's video. And they offer institutional grade custody for retail clients that want to set up their crypto IRAs for retirement, leveraging top storage solutions like Fidelity, Wells Fargo, and Coinbase Prime to keep your assets secure. To get started, simply click the link in the description of this video, sign up for free, and fund your account with cash. They also offer 401k rollovers or crypto transfers, and you can trade 24/7 with just 1% transaction fees and no maintenance costs. As always, I'm not a CPA or financial advisor, so consult one for tax advice, and we do earn a commission if you sign up using our link below to fund your crypto IRA account, but that helps support value-based videos like this. And iTrust Capital already has over 200,000 crypto IRA accounts and over $14 billion in transactions, proving they're trusted by smart investors just like you. So click the link below, get started now by funding your account today, and let's create generational wealth together. All right, bull runners, welcome back to the channel. So let's dive right in and talk about what's taking place, because right now the crypto fear and greed index is at 44. People are in fear, but they're not in extreme fear. And if we look over the past year in August, we can see that everyone was up here in greed above 70, and now they're sitting at 44. This sell-off may not be over yet, because we need to get down to extreme fear levels before that's the best time to consider backing up the truck for the dip. So although I do agree with part of this comment saying just buy low and sell high, how do you know where the low is in? You need to look at multiple confluence points, and I'll explain how to do that on the chart in a little bit. But I don't agree with this part saying technical analysis is a joke, because new people that come into this market and they invest just based on fundamental news, I explain how the fundamental news on partnerships, like what's happened with Ripple that I'll get into in a little bit, is disconnected from price action on the chart, and it leaves a lot of newer investors getting absolutely wrecked. So my goal is to protect you guys and help you get better deals on your favorite altcoins. And as always, this is not financial advice. I'm not going to tell you to buy or sell anything. I'm just going to show you data of what I see. And then if I share my opinion, it's based on data, so you can come to your own conclusion. So as always, go consult a financial advisor, because they have no idea what's going on in these markets, just like the rest of us. All right. So there's 4 reasons why the crypto market is dumping hard this week. Number 1, we have $23 billion in Bitcoin and Ethereum options expiring tomorrow. So this is a quarterly options expiration, and often brings high volatility in the market. Usually whales drive prices towards max pain, and that's what's happening right now. Number 2, the US government shutdown odds have increased to 67% by October 1st. Now that creates more uncertainty in the market, and in the past, the US government shutdowns have resulted in market corrections, and this is why people are panicking. Number 3, we actually had strong economic data that just came in.
Now, on the GDP side, this is our 3rd time around the block on Q2, and we see a really solid revision, 3.8%. I'm a bit shocked, to be honest. Usually the revisions as you get to 2nd and 3rd become smaller and smaller. So 3.8% would be the best quarter going back to, and we have to go back a ways here, to 4.4, and that was the 3rd quarter of 23. Now, it is important to point out that if you look at the 1st quarter final down 0.5%. There's a balance there, but the balance is moving in favor and momentum is moving in favor for better growth.
So good economic data is bullish in the long term, but it's bearish in the short term. And this is because when there's good economic data, it lowers the chances of rate cuts. And if you look at the CME Fed Watch tool here that basically predicts the next FOMC meeting rate cut in 33 days, well, it's now predicting 85%, so it's still high at 85.5% chances of another rate cut and only 14.5% of them keeping rates current, when before it was like 90+%. So Jerome Powell is still likely to come out and cut rates. So this isn't as big of a factor here because nonetheless this will boil over. But number 4 would be excessive leverage. In the past week, retail opened high leverage positions due to perpetual DEXs like Aster launching and the hype surrounding that. And at one point, alts open interest was almost 2x that of Bitcoin's. Right now, those people are getting liquidated, which is causing a market dump. So this was a great post here by Ash Crypto saying this could be the perfect setup by whales, causing people to sell their coins before Q4, which would be a major trap because they started September in a bullish way to make people think that it'll be up only. And now whales are dumping, so people panic sell before the Q4 rally. And in my video one day ago, I talked about Bitcoin coming back down within this zone right here of support and also a short-term temporary bounce based on what we were seeing on the stochastic RSI and the relative strength index and what I would be looking for within a bullish divergence. And sure enough, it's pretty much exactly what we saw. Now, obviously, I'm not a future teller here. I know I got some crystals here, like these orgonite pyramids, but they ain't no crystal ball. So we don't know exactly how big the bounces are when we see these bullish crosses or these divergences. For example, this one right here, where this yellow circle is on the chart, was exactly when I made that video. And literally right after that, just as predicted, we saw this bullish cross on the stochastic RSI. We saw a bounce up for Bitcoin. It was a little bit higher than expected though. So I talked about this resistance level holding as support for me to get more bullish on the market. Now, what I mean by that really depends on what time frame you're looking at, because this chart, what I was on was the hourly chart, and I like to use the daily chart for more macro conviction of trend reversals, because as you can see on the daily, we got rejected on this daily candle body close right at resistance at $113,380 something dollars right here. Whereas if you go into the more micro time frames like the hourly, we closed above that resistance level. So I don't use the hourly chart for my long-term swing trades as much. This is more for like video purposes and showing you guys what's happening on the intraday time frames. But one thing that I do is I use the hourly to better understand what's happening here within the daily candles. And so because the markets move so quick, by the time I put these videos out, this is going to look way different. But we are right now at $109,000. So we came back down within this zone of support. So what I see on the chart here, if we just look at the stochastic RSI, I'm going to clear the chart because obviously that's a big zone of support. And now that we're in it, where does Bitcoin go next? Because like I mentioned, I'm going to make my biggest predictions yet. And currently, the first thing that we do is we identify the trend. So obviously we're still in a downtrend. And a downtrend is just a series of lower highs, lower lows, lower lows, lower highs. And we're just putting in another lower low right now. So yeah, in the short term, Bitcoin could bounce up. We could see it come back up to $110,000, $111,000 really quick. But even if we put in another lower high, this is still a downtrend here. So I'm not aggressively bullish on Bitcoin until the last of these leverage traders are fleshed out. And we see on the macro time frames, like the daily, even the 4 hour, if I zoom out, this bullish divergence play out a little bit longer. Because right now, if we just connect the lowest low on the relative strength index with the current low, it bottomed out here at 23, and currently we're at 27 right now. So if Bitcoin bounces from this level, this would technically be a higher low on the RSI. It would also be a higher low on the stochastic if the stochastic reverses from the levels that we're at right now for a double confluence of a bullish divergence, because the price chart right here made a low at $112,000. And if we see a bounce from this low at this wick at $108,000, well, then we connect those lows. That's textbook bullish divergence. So the real question then becomes, okay, well, right now, if we see this bounce, how high does Bitcoin go in the short term? So then we draw resistance and support. So right now, the resistance was the previous support for Bitcoin to rally into. It's really simple. This is not rocket science. And the most difficult part about trading is to know how high these relief rallies go, because this one right here, could have gotten rejected a little bit lower. It could have done something like this and gone down. It could have gone even higher and come down. Nonetheless, how you get the best entry points is just by looking at confluence on these indicators and then also looking at key zones of support. So the next zone of support for Bitcoin is right down here. Actually, we just wicked off of the level that could be the low for Bitcoin before we reverse back to the upside. So we might not even come back down to these levels, but if we do, that's just a better entry point for yourself, because this was major resistance and support all the way back here, going back to June of 2025. And that's anywhere between, where we just wicked off of to $107,000. Now, if we break that support, the next levels for Bitcoin are all the way down here, like close to $100,000. So the best time to buy is not when you see the price doing this, because you're catching a falling knife. Because let's say, for example, Bitcoin starts to rally in the short term. You're like, ooh, I got a good entry point here, and you're still holding. Then Bitcoin reverses back to the downside and experiences another flush out. Well, then you're left sitting on your position waiting for it to recover. And that can happen sometime in October, November, or December. You just don't know if this sell-off is more aggressive than people expect. So that's why we zoom out on more macro timeframes like the daily and even the weekly to get better entry points. Because if you're doing this on the hourly chart or like the 15-minute chart, the stochastic RSI could be oversold on the 15-minute, but overbought on the daily. So that's why I look at the daily the majority of the time. And right now, this is a good sign because the K line, the D line are at 10 and 9 down here in oversold conditions. The RSI is at 37. So sure, we could come a little bit lower after this bounce. It's definitely possible for Bitcoin to come down closer to, $100,000, $105,000, wherever it bottoms out at. But eventually, I do expect Bitcoin to experience a major reversal back to the upside on the daily time frame after we experience a bullish cross on the stochastic RSI down closer to 0 and the relative strength index finds its low. Because there is no bullish divergence on the daily chart on either of these indicators here. That doesn't give me strong buying signals because I like to look for these divergences and use confluence on price action on the chart. So I do think Bitcoin could go a little bit lower, and we could just see this washing machine of short-term relief rallies followed by sell-offs for Bitcoin basically to coil up a little bit more in some type of falling wedge pattern before a major breakout. And so that could be very volatile on the stochastic RSI and the relative strength index. We don't know exactly what that'll look like, but the key is to watch for oversold conditions on both of these key indicators to get the best entry points, so that way you can be able to ride these relief rallies if you do want to trade a downtrend. Or if you want to day trade and get better entry points, then watching for these bullish divergences on like the 15-minute chart is going to be really powerful. So currently on the 15-minute chart for Bitcoin, the lowest low recently on the relative strength index is about 22 right here, with this dip down to $108,000. Bitcoin is likely going to do something like this in the short term while the relative strength index bounces up. The next question is, when we form another low on the RSI, if it's a higher low, the price chart will either be making an equal low or a lower low, which would be a bullish divergence. If it's an equal low and we're making a higher low on the relative strength index, I wait for a breakout and a back test of a previous resistance. So this is what I would want to see on the price chart for Bitcoin. Otherwise, we just continue this downtrend. So where I get more aggressive is on the breakouts and the back tests of previous resistance levels. And sometimes we see these fake outs like this, reclaim support, and then we continue higher. So a lot of times I watch for stuff like this too. And that's a very nuanced point that we talk about inside of Altcoin Pro University on the weekly Technical Analysis Tuesday calls. So you guys can get access to those through the link in the description below. But I also pointed out something very key on Total 2's chart with the stochastic RSI being in a downtrend, at 16, and I think it was like 5 for the K line and the D line, coming back within this zone of support. And we did it pretty quickly, with this massive red candle on the day, coming back down to $1.5 trillion as expected right here. And look at where this white circle was on the stochastic RSI. Now we're down here at 1.68 and 2.04, attempting to form a bullish cross. Now, usually the first time that we get down to almost 0 on the stochastic RSI in a downtrend is not the best time to buy, simply because you can see the price continue to dip lower. For example, right here, when we hit pretty much 0 was on the 1st of August of 2025. We stayed at 0 until this bullish cross happened 2 days later. And look at what happened on the price chart if I zoom in for you. We then experienced the bullish cross by the 3rd of August, but the price continued down another 3.5% on another bearish candle. So once we hit 0, we were right here on the candle body close, and then we saw this final liquidation in the market. Then we saw the recovery, little consolidation, and then a continued breakout right here on the daily chart. And so we could do something similar. Right now, we're almost there on the stochastic RSI, so we could go sideways for a little bit and then reverse back to the upside. Now, that could be another bearish candle close in flushing of liquidity down here somewhere before we make a recovery to the upside. So I think we're almost there. Similar to what happened during this phase right here, during the beginning of August. Also similar to what happened right here at the tail end of June when the stochastic RSI came down here. So nonetheless, on the macro, you're actually still getting a good entry point if you're just going to hold over the next 3 months on a lot of these altcoins, because when there's blood in the streets in general, and there's fear on the crypto fear and greed index, you're still getting a good entry point, but we're not at extreme fear yet. Now, I also talked about Ethereum's price chart here at how it is sitting at this current support level, which is a base drop on what I was expecting. And I also talked about a bullish divergence setting up on the relative strength index. And if we look at the chart, that is to the T exactly what happened there, because momentum was in favor of the bears. We broke a key support here, and we just broke the next one. And look at the relative strength index. I'm just going to move these white drawings here exactly to the T on what happened. So when you look at the stochastic RSI and you see the relative strength index, we talked about this bounce right here from the 23rd of September. This video was made when Ethereum was at $4,150 something dollars. Yeah, $4,182, pretty much right here. And so we just went sideways. The relative strength index made a recovery right here. And then on this sell-off, the RSI bottomed out here at 21, higher than the previous low at about 11. And so this actually is a bullish divergence. So now Ethereum, I would expect to make a bounce in the short term alongside Bitcoin. And depending on how aggressive that recovery is, if we bounce up, we might go sideways, or we might just make an aggressive V-shaped recovery to form a lower high in this downtrend right here. So this is my expectations in the short term. Now, if we look at the Ethereum to the Bitcoin price chart on the left-hand side of the screen, and on the right, we look at Bitcoin's market cap dominance. I talked about how Ethereum was overbought relative to Bitcoin because of this rally we experienced. Back here in July, I was explaining how Ethereum was a great play to be able to rotate from Bitcoin, and sure enough, was exactly spot on. Comparing Bitcoin to Ethereum, for example, when Bitcoin broke this descending resistance right here around the middle of April, we saw this consolidation on top of it as support before Bitcoin broke to the upside through this resistance, this zone of resistance, to hold it as support, which was support all the way from the 6th of November till it broke below it on the 24th of February with multiple points of contact. Then we look on the right-hand side of the screen, I was calling this out right here, right around this phase, because Ethereum broke this descending resistance, was holding it a tight range as support. And then we saw this massive liquidity injection happen for Ethereum. And guess what happened? It broke above this zone of resistance to now hold it as support. So what I think Ethereum is going through is what Bitcoin went through right here during this stage in the market cycle. And on the next breakout for Bitcoin, we're about to see Ethereum start to melt faces, because look at where Bitcoin is right now relative to the high right here, whereas the high for Ethereum right here, it's still well off of it. This high is about $4,000. Ethereum's at $2,500. So when Ethereum starts to make the move back up to this high right here, similar to what Bitcoin is doing right now, you guys better be ready for that, because certain altcoins are going to absolutely explode. Now, I'm not here to toot my own horn. I'm just stating facts. I was spot on about this. I'm not right all the time, but I share with you the data. And when I am right, I'll point it out so you can know why this happened. And the reason why this happened is because of what we saw happening on these two charts for confluence here. When Ethereum to the Bitcoin price chart breaks out, that simply means that money is rotating out of Bitcoin and going into Ethereum. And contrarily, when we see Bitcoin's dominance breaking down, we see money going out of Bitcoin elsewhere. That's why we've seen money flow into altcoins, and Bitcoin's dominance drop from 66% right here at the tail end of June all the way down to 57%. Now, I also talked about how Bitcoin's dominance could experience a rally here because of this bullish divergence we spotted on the relative strength index on the daily chart. Look at this, bottom right-hand side of the screen. The RSI bottomed out at 12 here, and Bitcoin's dominance was at 60%. We saw a short-term relief rally followed by continuation of the downtrend here, and we continuously put in lower lows on Bitcoin's dominance chart, but we put in higher lows here on the relative strength index. So this was a setup for a reversal on Bitcoin's dominance price chart and a short-term temporary relief rally. Now, I don't know, and nobody knows how high these relief rallies go once we see these divergences play out and we see these reversals, but it's pretty easy to spot these rallies take place. And once we see these rallies take place, after a divergence plays out, we watch the stochastic RSI, and then we look for bearish crosses to see when it's a good time to then rotate back to another asset. So for example, it made sense to rotate to Bitcoin when we saw this divergence starting to play out, because Ethereum's price chart as well was forming a bearish divergence. Look on the left-hand side of the screen, and I'll zoom in for this so you can see it better. You can see on the ETH to the Bitcoin price chart, the relative strength index topped out here at about 88 on the 20th of July. And if you just use the RSI as a selling point, that's not a good strategy as I talk about in Altcoin Pro Accelerator program calls, because ETH to Bitcoin was right here. It cooled off for a little bit, but then we continued higher. We formed another higher high, another higher high. So we were in an uptrend here on the ETH to Bitcoin price chart, forming higher highs and higher lows, but we were in a downtrend on the highs on the relative strength index. So because the momentum was slowing here on the relative strength index, also the stochastic RSI momentum slowed down by the time we reached the 25th of August, forming a lower high and another bearish cross. That was a sign, coupled with confluence, of a bullish divergence on Bitcoin's dominance chart, combined with the confluence of the bearish divergence, which is a contrarian reversal signal that ETH to Bitcoin was going to experience a sell-off and Bitcoin's dominance was going to experience a rally. So I hope that makes sense for you guys. Again, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you're getting value thus far. And if you want more information about, technical analysis, because if that person thinks that it's a joke, well, he's the type of guy that usually buys the top and sells the bottom every single time. In better understanding how to do technical analysis and read charts is actually how I became a millionaire before 30. So if you guys want to be able to make money in the markets, then learning how to read charts and do technical analysis, in my opinion, is the most important skill that you can possibly have. Because if you're just watching news-based videos and you're getting all buttered up and all hyped up about the latest partnerships that are happening in the blockchain space, about how institutions are going to pour in trillions of dollars, but you don't learn how to actually look at a chart, then you're going to be exit liquidity every single time. Because we just saw some of the biggest news drop right here, where Swift announced that they're launching a major new initiative to transform payments for consumers and small businesses, basically hinting at what Ripple and XRP has been doing for years, highlighting the new standard for cross-border payments. Plus, Ripple expanded their partnership with BBVA, bringing their institutional-grade digital asset custody technology to Spain. And through Ripple's partnership with Securities, RLUSD is now a key stablecoin off-ramp for BlackRock and Van Eck. So the most bullish news is hitting Ripple, but yet you look at the price for XRP and it's down, pretty much mirroring the exact drawing that I had up on the chart right here from my video that I just showed you with Ethereum and Bitcoin predictions. Get you scratching your head wondering, how do I know this stuff? Well, Benjamin Cowan, who's well respected in the space as well too, he posted this about Ethereum. I'll get into the XRP chart in a little bit. I know this video, you guys want to hear about XRP, but it's important you understand other altcoins like Ethereum and Bitcoin, because ETH is a real gauger of alt season 2. If Ethereum's pulling back, then it makes it more difficult for the rest of the altcoin industry to see bullish momentum, because then investors are getting liquidated across the board and it just creates this domino effect. So ETH ran to the highs in August, and the current pullback, he was saying, should bring ETH back to its 21-week EMA. And after ETH drops to the 21-week EMA, it should then rally to a new all-time high. So that's roughly at about $3,640 some odd dollars for Ethereum. And right now we're at $3,900. And so with a short-term relief rally for Ethereum, if we see another liquidity flush down here, this could act as support for then Ethereum to make the reversal aggressively to the upside off the 21-week moving average. So I'm actually in agreement with Ben here. And if we look at the XRP price chart, I drew a couple scenarios on the XRP price chart in my previous video, and both scenarios involved a sell-off further to the downside before a breakout for XRP. Because even if you look at the stochastic RSI, we were at about $2.85 right about here when I made that video. And we saw this little short-term dip followed by a rally up here. The stochastic RSI got into overbought conditions. The RSI went all the way up here above 70. We got rejected from this key confluence point of resistance here at nearly $3. And then sure enough, XRP reversed back to the downside. So we're just seeing this move play out right now beneath this descending resistance until Ethereum returns to its 21-week EMA. And what that would look like on these key indicators here is just really a lot of volatility on the stochastic RSI between 100 and 0. We just don't know. I mean, it's going to look whatever it's going to look like. The key to understand is when we're overbought and when we're oversold and when these divergences play out. That's what you look for. So we could see XRP just bleed out to the downside, a final flush, basically freak everybody out, because XRP is held on top of this support since the 3rd of August right here. So the markets tend to move to max pain first before we see a reversal. And I've been talking about this for the past few weeks on how a likely scenario that could definitely happen, these cards are on the table here, is for XRP to come back down to backtest, $2.60, even $2.55. These previous wicks up here and these candle body closes that we were at all the way back in March. If that were to happen, I think it would be quick and it would be some V-shaped recovery for XRP if we see more liquidity flush outs to the downside. Now, if we don't see that, eventually I do think there will be a reversal, and I do believe XRP will return to all-time highs, but we're not quite there yet. This attempted trend reversal was a major fake out here. When XRP broke above this descending resistance on the 8th of September, it attempted to clear this key level of resistance right here. And because we didn't clear that, we're still in a downtrend. Now, you obviously understand, you're very intelligent, that a downtrend is just a series of lower highs and lower lows. And because this high right here on the 13th of September was an equal high to the 24th of August, it was not a higher high. So it was really a failed breakout. This is the biggest level to watch at $3.13. Once I think we reclaim this level, I think we're going back to a new all-time high. So in order for me to get more aggressively bullish on the market, I would want to see on the daily chart, not the hourly, not the 15-minute, but the daily chart, XRP holding above this level for a few days and consolidating after this low comes in. So if the low is already in and we see this reversal now, I want to see it hold on top of here after the final flush out is done in the market for XRP. So depending on how low that puts us, we're just going to wait and see. But in the meantime, XRP's price chart is just going to range sideways / down in the short term until we get confirmation on these key indicators here. Because the RSI is at 40, we're still in the middle of a range. The stochastic RSI just broke down below 20 here, and we just experienced a bullish cross, but it's not confirmed yet by passing above 20. A lot of the times, like I just mentioned, when we drop down below 20, like what happened here, we can stay there for an extended period of time while the price chart continuously bleeds out, forming these failed relief rallies followed by lower lows. And so that's what it could look like. Failed relief rally, lower low for XRP's price chart before we eventually break out. And how coincidental would it be for XRP to return to the 200 moving average in blue right here? It's roughly at $2.55. And so as this continually trends up, this could act as the key launch pad for XRP to bounce off of before this major reversal takes place. So we're almost there. If you look at the XRP, the Bitcoin price chart on the right-hand side of the screen, this would be a final flush out here, back down to or even below the 200 moving average before this reversal takes place. Then I think this cup and handle plays out, because this is really just a bull flag here, or a handle on the XRP, the Bitcoin price chart, because you can see here since January of 2025, XRP was in a downtrend, and then we saw this reversal followed by this bull flag here, which is the handle. We have this neckline here. Once this reversal starts for XRP and we come back in contact with this neckline and break it, XRP to Bitcoin's price chart is going to break out massively alongside the XRP price chart to the upside as we go into the final stage of this bull run in November and December. So I think we're going to close out September bearish, as we have virtually every single bull run. But then I believe the true optimism, belief, thrill, and euphoria stage of the market cycle is going to happen between October, November, December, and potentially going into January and February. And then we go into the complacency, anxiety, denial, panic, capitulation, anger, depression stage of the bear market all over again. So you do not want to be late. You want to position yourself properly by looking for the best possible altcoins that are going to make millionaires over the next 90 days. And that's exactly what our research team is doing to provide you with the biggest opportunities in crypto. For example, our research team posted GOAT on the 13th of October of 2024 when it was right at a penny, and since then it rallied to over $1, 5,000%. That's like turning $1,000 into over $50,000. Our team called Pendle at only a $16 million market cap, or 16 cents, back on February 18th of 2023, all the way back here, and since then it's rallied up over 4,000%. That's a 40x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $40,000. Our team also called BitTensor Tau September 15th, 2022, before the token was ever even launched. And since then, Tau has rallied over 2,000%. That's a 20x. Our team even said Solana is most likely to be one of the easiest trades next year, and this was posted December 29th, 2022, on the day that Solana bottomed out at around $8. And since then, Solana looks like it's up over 2,500%. That's a 25x. It's like turning $1,000 into over $25,000. The list goes on and on and on. Our team called Sui, Ondo, and even some of the biggest cult-based meme coins like MOG back in July 20th of 2023, the day that MOG launched. So if you want to learn how our team is finding these altcoins before they explode, we just launched Altcoin Pro University, where our research team gives you real-time altcoin picks with explosive potential for this bull run, along with 100+ expert curated classes crafted by industry experts to discover these gems yourself, on top of our live weekly calls every single week for in-depth crypto market analysis and daily updates. And that's just a fraction of what we offer inside of Altcoin Pro University through the link below. And although we make no guarantees because crypto is definitely risky, guys, This is only $97 a month or $970 a year. If you want to save $194, getting 2 months for free and unlock some exclusive bonuses, just go through the link in the description below. Get in right now. Watch the 26-minute video covering everything that Altcoin Pro University offers to help you become the first millionaire in your family tree, if that's a goal of yours. And you can get started through the link in the description below right now, or you can go to bullrunners.com to take advantage of the bonuses we're giving you before they expire. Everyone is loving the community. They're loving the education. They're getting access to real-time altcoin picks first before we ever make videos about them. So click the link in the description below, watch the video, and I'll see you on the inside.